beware of collector scare tactics, and my best advice to give you on a collection letter that's over 7 years old. Can a debt collector really drag you into court after 7 years? Well, a lot of people think that after 7 years passes, you're in the clear. Your old debt just vanishes, wiped from your credit report. But the truth is a little bit more complicated. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Currency Council, where I cover all things money, from credit repairs, side hustles, personal finance, and more. So it is true that most negative marks, like collections, fall off your credit report after 7 years. And that can make it look like you're in the clear. But credit reporting rules and debt collection laws are two different things. Just because something disappears from your credit report doesn't mean a debt collector still can't come after you. Debt collectors can, and often do, still try to keep collecting that debt long after that 7 years is up. Phone calls, letters, even lawsuits. I just received an email from a debt collector on a debt that's way over 10 years old, still trying to collect. And if you don't know what to do or how to respond, you might fall right into their trap. So the big question is, if the debt's over 7 years old and they take you to court, can they actually win? And that all comes down to something called the statute of limitations, which is basically a deadline for filing a lawsuit to collect on a debt. And this varies by state and the type of debt. In most cases, it's 3 to 6 years. But in some states, it can stretch all the way to 15 years. But once that statute of limitation runs out, the debt becomes time-barred, which means the collector can still ask you to pay, but can't sue you over it. If you do have one or more collections that's under that 7-year mark and you want to get them off your credit report to boost your credit score, check out my credit repair course, linked in the description. So here's the tricky part with the statute of limitations. Let's say you do have a debt that's over 7 years old. You're in the clear. You're free. That clock can restart. For example, this debt that's over 10 years old that I just received an email on. Let's say I didn't know what I was doing. I saw this email. What do? Do I ignore it? Do I call them? If you call them, they're going to put the pressure on you, right? They're going to tell you things, kind of leaning you to believe something that might not really be true. Maybe telling you that they can garnish your wages or something like that. They'll lean into that direction. Scare tactics is pretty much what it is. Don't know what you're doing. You can fall into a promise to pay or make a partial payment, good faith payment. Anytime you do anything like that, that clock just reset. 7 years starts all over. So if you ever receive a letter from a debt collector on a debt that's over 7 years old, the best thing to do is ignore it. Receiving a lawsuit from a debt collector on a debt that's over 7 years old, you don't want to ignore that. You definitely don't want to do that. What that's going to do is give that debt collector a default judgment. So you ignore it. That debt collector goes to court. You don't show up. No matter what, no matter if that debt's over 7 years old, no matter if you paid that debt, whatever it is, you didn't show up. You have no defense. That judge is going to give that debt collector a default judgment, meaning you're now on the hook for that debt. So the best thing to do there is don't ignore it. Get all your records together showing that your debt is over 7 years old, or talk to a consumer protection attorney. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do in your particular situation. Many of these attorneys offer free consultations and can spot illegal collection tactics you might miss. In some cases, that gives you the power to countersue. Another tactic I see from debt collectors use on debt that's over 7 years old is sending you a letter stating that if you don't pay by this date, they will file a lawsuit against you. Don't fall into that trap. All they're trying to do is get paid. Remember, after 7 years, you're not on the hook for this debt. Unless you call, unless you tell them, okay, I'll pay. Don't file a lawsuit against me. You just restarted that 7-year clock, okay? If you get a letter from a debt collector, do not respond. If you receive a letter that looks like a lawsuit, but you're not sure, it may be kind of sketchy, check with your courthouse. See if you have a lawsuit filed against you before you do anything else. So to sum it all up, if your debt is over 7 years old, you're most likely in the clear. If you haven't made any promise to pay, if you haven't made a partial payment, if you haven't admitted to the debt, beware of collector scare tactics. And my best advice to give you on a collection letter that's over 7 years old is do not respond. These people do this for a living. You call and say, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm not going to admit to this debt. I'm not going to make a partial payment. I'm just going to call and see what this debt's all about. By the end of the call, you're back on the hook. You admitted to the debt, you're making a partial payment, you're making a promise to pay, and you don't even know how that happened, right? They do this for a living. They know what they're doing. Do yourself a favor. Do not respond to a debt that's over 7 years old. So I want to thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. And again, if you have collections that are under 7 years old and want to get them off your credit report to boost your credit score, check out my credit repair course. It's packed with valuable information and has proven results. So thanks for watching. See you next time.